So far we have discussed about static descriptive programming, right? So what is meant by static descriptive or inline descriptive? So when we are defining the object properties and values directly inside the line where we have mentioned that method. So when you are defining these properties and values directly inside this line, this is called as an inline descriptive, or you can call it as a static descriptive. Okay. So here we are not managing or we are not using any object repository, if you see. And at the same time, as I told, we can use the combination like object repository and descriptive approach. When you are using the combination, parent object can be in repository and child can be in descriptive. Or if the parent is in repository, child can be in descriptive or can be in a repository. Either two options we have. Okay, let's see how exactly that works. Now, I just commented out this DP or descriptive programming script, whatever we have written, and let me just go here and let me open our application. Now what I'm doing is, I'm just adding that browser and page object to the repository. Just wait, let it be open. Or you can use share repository also if you want. I'm just adding only page object to the repository. Okay. Then what I'm doing is, browser.page. Okay, so this I have taken from repository, and for web editor I have not added that web editor username to the repository. What I can do is now say HTML tag equal to input comma HTML ID equal to txt username set value. Okay. So now what I am doing is here, if you look at that, the parent is in repository and the child I am writing in descriptive programming. You don't need to add to the repository. Then, if you run that script, let's see whether it will work or not. It has to initiate that script. It's still initiating. You can see that value has been entered. So which means that it's working fine. Right? Okay, now if you see parent is in repository, and for browser page is a child. So child is in repository, for page web edit is a child. So this child is in descriptive and this one is in repository. Now what I will do is, I'll say browser is a descriptive. Now browser object is defined in descriptive programming. I have defined the property and the value directly in the script. So this is descriptive. Now page, I am not using descriptive. Okay. So browser and page. Let's see whether it works or not. So parent is in descriptive, child is in repository, and see whether this combination works. It says that object was not found in the repository. It throws the error now because it will not be able to locate the object. Because whenever you use repository, then it will look at the same hierarchy in the script also. Whatever the hierarchy added in the repository, same hierarchy, object hierarchy should be there in the main in the script also. Like in the repository, it added like browser and page. So it has to, you have to use same browser and same page to follow the hierarchy. If you say that no, page object is already added, but it is not added under this particular browser. Got what I am saying here? So When a parent is in a repository, a child you can manage in a repository, or you can use by using descriptive, you can define by using descriptive. If the parent object is defined in descriptive programming, child object also must be defined in descriptive programming. There is no other option available. Got what I'm saying? Okay. Now, let's understand how the dynamic descriptive works exactly. Okay. Normally, static descriptive will be used when object is not repetitive, when object comes only once. Okay. You don't need to use that object again and again. Then you can go with the static descriptive. You can define the properties and values directly in the line, and then you can use it. But if the object is repetitive, that means object is coming multiple times in different places, or maybe in different hierarchies. So it is not good to go with the inline descriptive. The reason why, because if you write inline descriptive, you need to define the object properties every time whenever you use it. So that is the reason. If the object is repetitive, or when you need to retrieve collection of objects, different collection of objects, then you should not go with static and you should go with dynamic. So normally when this dynamic descriptive programming will be used, when the object is repeatedly comes in different places, or maybe in a different hierarchy, or if we need to deal with collection of objects, that means when we need to retrieve collection of multiple objects, okay, access multiple objects, not one object, access multiple objects at a time, then you can go with dynamic descriptive. Okay. So in dynamic descriptive, what normally we do, we define a description object, okay, like this, whatever we have given here, description.create, and then assign the description object to your variable. Now, whenever okay, after assigning the variable, the description object, you need to define properties and values. What kind of properties and what kind of values that you need to use, or you want to use to identify a collection, or you want to identify an object. Okay. Now, let's say like this. What we'll do is, now assume that we need to identify traffic here. Okay. So, what I will do is, first I will create one object here, description object. Okay. So, then what I will do for the description object, I will say class is human for the description object. Class is human, name is Kranti. I'll give these two properties. And gender, male. These two properties are. Assume that this overall is an application. Then for the tool, whenever I want to identify Kranti next time, then I will just give this object, whatever the object I have created now, I will give them. When I give this object to the tool, then tool will retrieve the information what is stored inside this object. Based on the information which you have stored inside this description object, it will go to the application and then it will identify. So it will see, okay, so how many people are there with those three properties. So object properties will be given, or object information will be given through a description object here. Okay, we are creating an object here. Through this object, we are providing the information about the object. Getting what I am saying here? So that's what the dynamic. Now, as I told, when we use this way, Kranti may be here, maybe somewhere, maybe in the room, or maybe in the room. Whenever I want, or in any hierarchy, I can use that description object. At the same time, now what I need is, sometimes I need to get the collection of objects. Now let's say here, I want to get there are a lot of objects in this room. Okay, we have humans, we have chairs, or we have a laptop, keyboard, or mobiles, or there are many objects available. Now, what I want to do is, I want to get collection of all the humans. All the humans should come into one collection. Collection is nothing but array. One array I want to get. Then what I need to do is here in this case, first we create one description object. For the description object, we define the class as human. Say class equals to human. Next, what I can say to my script is get the collection of all the objects which are matching with the information which I stored in the description object. Okay, so take this object, whatever I have defined now, or description object, then take that information what I have stored inside, go to the application, get all the objects which are matching with this particular information. So the information what you have stored inside this description object is class. Class is nothing but human here. You have defined a human class, right? So it will go to the application and then it will retrieve all human class objects. Okay. Now I don't want all the humans. Then what I need is all the males here into the collection, one collection. Then what I will do is I will say, okay, class is human and gender male. So two properties and values I provide here for this description object. Then when I provide this description object to my script, it takes the information, nothing but properties and values we have stored, then it will get the collection. So the information what I have stored now is class human, take all the humans. In that gender male, in those humans, male, all males will be taken out. What I am saying here? Then in that males again, I don't want all. I want the people who are starting with the name, maybe K, or who wants, I want the people whose name is starting with N, like that. Okay. So in this case, what I will do is, I will say maybe a class is human and the gender male and name is like N dot star. So because starting with the N, the name can be anything, right? When I say N dot star, N is a starting character, dot star means remaining anything it can be, right? So that's how we can define the properties and values. Depends on what kind of objects that we want to get. So whenever you need to get some collection of objects, first we create a description object. We provide the object information, what kind of objects that we want. So based on that, we provide the information, and then we can ask our script to use this information which is stored inside this object. And then based on this information, you get me the objects, whatever the objects that we want. I want. Okay. That's how we use dynamic. This is another situation when we want to get the collection of objects. Now let us understand how normally we can use this description. Okay. Did I tell description.create our method? So description.create method is used to create a description object, okay, or descriptive object to provide that information. Okay. Now, whenever you create a description object, it will not create with any class. It will just say it as an object. That's it. By default, it will not come up with any class. It will not come up with any class. Okay. Now, what you have to do is depends on what kind of object that you want. What kind of object that you want, you can define the class here. Then you can say, oh browser, how can you define the property and the value for this description object? There are two ways. One is, you can say description object of so property. Property, when you want to define the class, you define it as a mid class. M stands for Mercury. Mercury interactive class. It is. Okay. So MIC class dot value equal to browser. So what I am doing here, I am converting O browser as a browser class object. Here, when you say, okay, I am already defining it as O browser, why are you giving mid class again? But this is just a variable name I am giving as O browser. Since I want to create one browser object, so I have given the name as O browser. That's it. Okay. Then, what I want is, I want to identify only RN HRM browser. So class is browser, and then O browser of, you can give name property as orange HRM. So what I am doing, it must be class of the object must be name, browser, and name of the browser must be orange HRM. Now what I can do is, whenever I want to use browser object, now I'll just write like this: O browser of O browser, because we just added to the repository. So whenever this comes, you can use this browser dot page, or if you want to use page also, then what you can do is set page equals to description dot create page of. So there are two ways that you can provide the properties and values. This is one way. Say object of property dot value equals to property value. Or second way is that object, whatever the object we have created, description object dot add. So this method is used to add property and value to the description object. Okay, adding information to the description object by term, that is adding information or adding the description to the descriptive object. So adding description or adding information is nothing but adding properties and values. We can add the information, or we can add the properties and values information, or we can add the properties and values to the descriptive of the object in two ways. Yes. We can write down the syntax. One way is, say, the description object of property dot value, property name dot value. That is one way. Second way is the description object dot add property name comma property value. One way is this. Just write down the syntax as description object of property name dot value equals to property value. Second one is description object dot add and the property name comma property value. That's it. Okay. So you can use both the ways, no problem. Anyway, it's fine. Okay. Now remember one thing. For the in the description, in the descriptive programming, regular expression is enabled by default. That means, okay, you don't need to, when you are using a pattern, you don't need to specify that you are using regular expression pattern. So you can directly write the pattern there as soon as it finds any wild character in the property value, like dot or square bracket or parenthesis or question mark, any of that kind of wild character. As soon as it finds that wild character nothing but the special characters in the regular expression, we call it as a wild character. As soon as it finds a wild character, then it will automatically consider that as a regular expression. In case if you don't want to use the regular expression for any of the property here, property value itself contains some pattern, you don't want to consider that as a regular expression, you want to consider it as a normal character. Then what you can do is, you can say open dot, there is something called item of so and so, you can provide under regular expression. Okay, so that you can switch on or off. Okay, regular expression. So by default it is on, it is true, and if you set as false, then the regular expression will be disabled for that particular property. In case if you want to do that, otherwise you don't do that. Okay, so I will come back to that again on the problem. So now I have defined the browser object, I have defined page object. So whenever you want to use this browser and page object, you don't need to give the properties and values in every line. Or you can do, instead of giving properties and values, you can say 4 page. So if we use like this now, as soon as it's a browser of Go browser, it will directly connect to this description object. Then the information whatever you have stored in this Go browser will be imported to here. Automatically, internally, it does. So what we are doing now, we are not providing the properties and values directly in the line. We are storing these properties and values in one description object. We are using the description object wherever we need it. That's a dynamic descriptive. Okay, dot web edit of HTML tag as input, comma HTML ID as txt username dot set also value. Let's see whether it works or not. Execute, and it is doing that, setting the value. That means it is working. Okay. So if you want for password, you can say you don't need to write the properties. Browser or browser, you can specify dot page of Go page. So you can use it a number of times, no problem. Okay. So this is one thing. One way of using the dynamic descriptive. So even the same object is repeated multiple times, instead of writing the properties and values every time, you can define the object like this, description object, and then you can use that description object whenever you need to pass the object information. Okay. So the other use of dynamic descriptive is to work with the collection of objects. To work with the collection of objects. Okay. Then how do you work with the collection of objects here? Let's see what is mean. First understand what is meant by collection of objects. I'm just logging into the application now. Okay. Then see here what I have is, I have lot of checkboxes placed in this. Lot of checkboxes are placed. Then out of this, what I need is, I want count of all the checkboxes. I want count of all the checkboxes which are selected. There are a lot of checkboxes available, but I want the checkboxes which are selected here. Okay. Then first let's understand what kind of properties that can be used. Now, what is the class of object here? It is web checkbox. So mid class must be web checkbox. Then out of all this, which property can differentiate between checked or selected checkboxes and unselected checkboxes? You need to understand. So when you want to get certain collection only, then you need to understand how I can differentiate these objects with other objects. Then when you are differentiating, obviously by using some properties only you can differentiate it. Right? Then now let's say in this class, okay, how can we differentiate the people, or how can we differentiate us from different objects? By using class. With class, we can differentiate humans with other objects. When I say class as a human, then humans will be separated or will be differentiated from other objects. And out of humans, okay, how can we differentiate between males and females? By using one property called gender. When I say gender name, all humans, males will come out. And when I say female, all the females will be shortlisted. And still, okay, out of all those, we can still differentiate between males. Okay, by name. When I say name as Kranti, all Krantis in the males whoever are there will come out. So like this, whenever you want to get a particular people here, then you need to understand, okay, how I can differentiate only these people from others. So unique to these people, common between this, and uh, this common property should not match with other people, right? So that's how we differentiate. Here also the same thing. Whenever you want to get only selected checkboxes out of all, then mid class may not help directly. Mid class, when you give the checkbox, all the checkboxes will be filtered out. Out of those checkboxes, I want only selected checkboxes. Then what you can do is, can you see a property called checked here? What is the checked property here? 1. Right? Then if the checkbox is not selected, then checked is 0. So now what I will do is, get me all the checkboxes where the checkbox checked property as 1. Right? So now how can we do that? So what I'll do is set O checkbox equals to description dot create. That O checkbox of mid class dot value equals to, it's not case sensitive, but property name is not case sensitive, as well as property value also not case sensitive. O checkbox of checked dot value equal to 1. Now set, okay, write down another method. What I want now, I want to get the collection, right? Okay, write down one of the method. Very important method, child objects. Method name is child objects. Remember, there is no space. Child objects. This method is used to get the collection of objects. Get the collection of objects from a parent. Get the collection of objects from a parent. It can be any parent. Okay. So sometimes what you need is, you want to get some collection of objects from one parent, or you want to get some collection of objects from one table, or you want to get the collection of objects from one page, like this. Okay. Or maybe from one form, maybe from one window. Anywhere, for any parent it can be. Okay. So to get the collection of objects from a parent by given description, you can say. Get the collection of objects from a parent by given description. Okay. Now, so by using that child objects, we can get the collection. Now, description by given description, right? Description is nothing but this. We are creating this description object, right? You have to pass the description through a descriptive object. You cannot directly provide the description for the child objects. You need to provide the description through a description object. So, what kind of objects that you want to get? Store that information which matches with that kind of objects. Store that information in description object, and then use this description object in the child objects wherever you want to get the collection. Okay. Now what I am doing is, see, I want to get all the checkboxes, right? Set O checkbox collection. I am just defining one variable. You know why I am using set here? Set I am using because I am getting the collection of objects, right? So I am trying to assign the object collection to the variable. If it is value collection, you don't need to use set. But since we are getting object collection, you must have to use set. Then set O checkbox collection equals to browser of O browser, you can specify, or you can give the properties if you want, or if that object is stored in repository, still that is fine, no problem. Page, you can say O page dot child objects of O checkbox. So what I am doing now? So in this page, I am using child objects inside the page. That means get the object collection from the page. What kind of object collection? The objects which are matching with these properties and values with this information. Right? So now it will go to the application, it will first filter all the checkboxes, then it will filter all the checkboxes which has got checked property as 1. Then if you want to know how many are there, how many are matched, you can say the collection dot count method. Yes, count. Collection dot count. This number, and there are total 5 checkboxes are there. 1, 2, 3, 4. So one is actually hidden here somewhere. Okay. So actually one object is there somewhere in the page, but it's actually hidden. Okay. So that's the reason it is showing 5. But what I want is, okay, I don't want all. Some are hidden and some are there inside the page, right? So I don't want that. I want the checkboxes only within this result table. This is called result table here. Then what you can do is, take this table and HTML ID is result table. Now use child objects not in the page. You can say web table again. This is web table object and HTML ID equal to result table dot child objects. Child objects of O checkbox. So what I am doing now? Now this time table is a parent. Get all checkboxes, not in the entire page, but get the child objects only in that particular table object. Now you can see only 4. Earlier there were 5 because in the entire page it considered earlier, but now it is considering only the table. Now if you want to highlight each and every, if you want to know whether it is the same checkboxes, then do this. For I equals to 0 to count -1. Since we are starting with, then we can retrieve one by one by saying that collection of I. So first time it will be the collection of 0, first object, collection of 1, second object, like that. Dot, say highlight. Highlight is the method to highlight the object in the application. You can use that highlight for any of the objects. So 4 are there. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4. Whatever the checkboxes are highlighted. Then if I do 0, then all unselected checkboxes. Total 10 are there, 10 unselected checkboxes are there. You can see all unselected checkboxes are being highlighted there here. So getting highlighted one by one. Okay, so this is how normally you can use child objects. This is also dynamic descriptive. Whenever you want to get the collection of objects. Okay, and let's move further. Next. Okay, now there are various buttons available in this, right? Okay, some buttons are enabled, some buttons are disabled. Now I want to get all the buttons which are what disabled here. Then let us understand how normally we can differentiate other class of objects with buttons. And what is a class here? Class is nothing but web button. When you give a class with class as web button, it will differentiate other objects and these buttons. Okay. Then how can I differentiate between the buttons? How can I differentiate between disabled and enabled ones? Then look at the property, something called disabled here. Then what is the disabled property value here? 0. That means disabled false. 0 stands for false, 1 stands for true. Disabled false in the sense it is enabled. And when you look at that, what is that? Disabled 1. That means it is disabled. Disabled 1 means disabled true. That means it is disabled. Okay, all these are enabled here. This also disabled true. Okay. Right? Okay. Now, how can we get only enabled buttons or disabled buttons? Right? O button equals to description.create. O button of first provide mid class so that it will filter out the objects, button objects. Then it is web button. Then O button of disabled dot value equals to what? Nothing but disabled true. So it means that get only disabled buttons from the page. Then set O button collection equals to browser of O browser dot page of O page dot tailed objects of O button. O button collection dot count. So this will get the total number of buttons. Okay, so total 3 buttons are disabled here. Let's see what are all those buttons. For I equals to 0 to count minus 1, which is say total buttons here. Then you can say total buttons minus 1. Then O button collection of I dot highlight. Let's see what objects will be highlighted. One is hidden somewhere. The one button is hidden somewhere. Okay. So this is to get the collection of buttons on the. Next, what I want is here. There are a lot of links available in this, right? Lot of links available in the link. Now I want to know how many links are there in this particular base object. I want to know how many links are there in the base object. Okay. How do we do that? Set O link equals to description dot create O link of class dot value equals to link with link collection equals to browser page dot value tail objects of link. This is box link collection dot count. Let's see how many links are there. It will just give the count. Total 172 links are there. So let's not look through and highlight it because there are a lot of objects, so it takes time. Fine. Now what I want is, I don't want all the links. I don't want all the links. I want only the links which have got the first character as C, like configuration or something like that, or count, some text are there. So the link text must be starting with character C, or the link text must be starting with A, like admin, allocate, something like that. Okay. Yes. How can we do it? So now when I say here, I am giving only one property, link class. So when I say link class has link, all the links. But now within those links, I need to filter again. Add one more property. Say link of text property dot value equal to I'm saying C dot. That means starting letter must be C and the remaining link can be, and then let's see how many links that we get here. So total 20 links are there. Or I want to get with either it can be starting with C, or it can be starting with A, either one. Get all the links with starting with A or with starting with C. Then what you can do here, extend the pattern. You can say A or C, or you can also do like this. In the square bracket, if you do AC, then it can be out of this one character will be taken. It will take A or it takes C. The square bracket. So we have learned this regular expressions earlier. Now first character will be either A or C. It can be. Total 40 links are there. So like this, you can use the regular expressions also when you want to get the objects. Like, okay, so in case if you want to get certain objects which are matching with the specific criteria, like selected checkboxes or particular links only, or maybe enabled buttons, disabled buttons, or okay. So one more here. Let me go here. So there are a lot of web edits, right? Okay, here a lot of web edits are there, and I want all the web edits. All the web edits which are containing empty values. There are some web edits contains non-empty values, but I want the web edits which are containing empty values. Okay? Then how can you do that? Set OEdit equals to description.create. See, variable name I'm using OEdit, right? Whenever I want to get edit field, OEdit, or whenever I want to get checkbox, checkbox. It is not like that. You must have to use in the same way, but we are following some appropriate naming conventions. Like when I say O checkbox, if you think that okay, so I'm assigning a checkbox objects or object for this, something like that. So my meaningful naming convention. Then you say O edit of what kind of object I want? Edit field, right? Then edit field nothing but web editor. So Niklas dot it's a web edit. Then O edit of value dot value. Value is a property. Value is a property. Now value must be empty. Then set O edit collection equals to chain objects of O edit. See, here you can use inline also. For these two objects you can use inline also. And just a since anyway I have defined O browser, you can still use it, or you can also say like this. You can also use this. Both are descriptive here. That is that. Also surface. OEdit collection.com. Let's see. The total 0. Okay. Experiment. Value is empty, right? Then I will do software. So open space for I equals to 0 to this one. Dot highlight then message box get our property of value. Get our property, get our property method. So normally get our property method is used to retrieve the property value of the runtime object, but the object which is in the application. So if you give some property name there, so whatever the current value of that particular property for that particular object, it retrieves the value for that property. So I am getting the value property. Okay, here. So let's see why it is not. second one empty, and so type name property. Type name property. Sorry, built-in function. This type name is not a property. Type name is one of the inbuilt function we have in this script. Okay. How you might have not told, you can write them. I think I might have told type name in inbuilt function. Normally, type name function is used to get the subtype name of the variable. Depends on what kind of value it is the variable. Okay, so based on the variable value, it will get the subtype. If that variable is containing a string value, it returns the subtype as string value. Or if the variable containing date value, it will return the type as date, something like that. Normally, from application, usually it will be string on this most of the times. So, empty or the even though it is date, normally it takes just the string only because value will be coming out as a string value. And still one. So if that is not working, then go with other one. If it is empty, then hello. Because the empty value property as empty directly is not working, so I am going it in a different way. Only the objects which are got empty, these are getting. So there are various ways of getting it. So because the value as empty directly it is not working, it's unable to get it. So that is the reason what I am doing is instead of using this value property to filter the objects, I am getting all the web edits from the page. From that all the web edits, I am getting the data row property of value. So if the value is empty, then highlight that particular object. Okay. And now what I need is this time there are a lot of objects are there on the many of the applications are being opened. Okay, so a lot of applications are being opened here. Then what I need is here, I want to know how many browsers are open. According to the standard, whenever you are writing automation script, before you launch the application, when you are working on web-based application, before you launch the application, all existing browsers should be closed. All existing browsers should be closed, and then you can launch the new browser. Okay. Now the question is, how can I close all the existing browsers? There are multiple ways of closing all the existing browsers, but one of the ways is first to get the collection of all the open browsers from the desktop, all the open browsers from desktop, and get the count of those browsers and loop through first browser to last browser and close one by one. That is the logic that we can use normally. Okay. So in this case, what you can do is first, okay, you define your browser object in the description. In descriptive programming. And how do you do that? Set your browser equals to description.create. Then you can say O browser of class dot value equal to browser. That's defining. Then this time I'm just defining only browser object. I'm not giving any name or anything, so that it will match with all the browsers with respect to option. It could be RNHRN, Google, or any other browser. Then set your browser collection equals to. So this time I want some desktop, right? You can say desktop dot. Desktop is one of the utility objects. We call it as utility. Yes, utility object desktop. So normally this desktop is inbuilt object. Utility objects are nothing but inbuilt objects of UFT. So this desktop object is used to deal with the desktop of the system wherever we are executing the script. Now what I need to do is say the desktop, from the desktop get the objects, browser objects. Then you can say desktop dot child objects or browser. So from the desktop get all the object collection, whatever are matching with the information what I have provided to browser. So the information what I have provided to a browser is class as a browser. So only browser objects will be matched. Then you can say O browser collection dot count. Let's see how many objects it returns. Maybe 3 or 4. Yeah, so the 3 browsers are there. 3 browsers have been open. If you want to close all the browsers, for I equals to or any variable name, you can use that. You have to O browser collection dot count minus 1. Then O browser collection of I dot close. Okay, so look at the first browser to last browser and then all the browsers are there closed. Or no. Okay, I have browsers, many of the browsers open here. Just consider. I want to close only Chrome browsers. Okay, so now when I say class as browser, it is matching with Chrome, it is matching with Internet Explorer also. Now, how can you differentiate between Internet Explorer and Chrome browser? Can you see something called application version here as Internet Explorer? For Chrome, it is application version is Chrome and some number. Then you can do one thing, old browser of what is the property? Application version dot value equal to, okay, or the version will be keep changing, right? Then what you can do is here 0909. Just give it. Object description matches with more than one. some problem. It closes only Chrome browsers and you can see Internet Explorer remains safe. So like this, you can close all the existing browsers. Okay. Then if you say that, okay, so Google browser should not be closed and all remaining browsers should be closed and Google browser should not be closed. What you can say is, once you get the collection of browsers, you can say, O browser collection of I that get our property of name is not Google, then you close it. If it is Google, don't close it. So like that you can specify. So this is how normally we close all the existing browsers in the application. So this is all, this is how normally we can write descriptive programming. The standard way of writing the descriptive programming. Okay, standard way of writing the descriptive programming. So we have static and dynamic. It's clear. So how we use dynamic and how we use static. But apart from this, there are other ways also. Like you can use DOM or you can use XPath based scripting. That means instead of giving all these properties and all, you can give the XPath directly and then you can use it and you will see it slowly. Okay. So and one more thing that you need to know is here. Okay, when we have two approaches now. One is descriptive programming approach and second one is repository approach. Okay. So since we have two approaches, then it is up to us when we go with the descriptive one and when we go with the repository. Or do we use both or do we use only descriptive or only repository? So most of the times we use both the approaches. We go with the descriptive and we go with the repository. Okay, but when we go with both approaches, it's a question. Okay, in what situations we use descriptive, in what situations we switch to repository. That means what kind of objects we store in repository, what kind of objects we store we manage in descriptive. Okay, right then. When to use descriptive programming and when to use object repository. Okay. So if the object is not repetitive, coming only once. If the object is not repetitive, coming only once. Okay, so if the object is coming only once, right? Then if you store that object in the repository, then when you add the object to the repository, obviously it occupies some space. Okay, so if the object repository size is increased and script performance will be reduced normally. Okay, so to reduce the size of the repository or to reduce the dependency on the repository, normally we use descriptive programming if the object is not coming multiple times. Since we use only shared repositories, in the reality we use shared repository, we may not refer to local repository. So the purpose of shared repository is, in case if the objects are repeated in different places, then we add them to the shared repository, we can use that shared repository everywhere. But if the object is not repetitive, it is not good to add to the shared repository because we don't use it in different places. So in such cases, to reduce the burden on the repository, if you define the object in descriptive, so that it will be, your script will be faster, performance will be good. And the second one, when we need to deal with collection of objects. When we need to deal with collection of objects. Okay, so like we are not using single object. We need to use it collection. We need to get the collection of. So when you want to get the collection, you cannot use other possibility because the description have to be provided. Description should be provided only through description object. Right. Next. When the object is very dynamic and the properties of the object or keep changing depends on previous actions. When the object is very dynamic and object properties are keep changing, object properties are keep changing based on previous actions. Okay. And another one is when we are writing the scripts, even the objects are not available in the application. Even when the objects are not available in the application. Okay. So normally these are some situations when we go with the descriptive program. Okay. So we will stop here today, and tomorrow we will see some more things in the scripting, like how can we use XPath and how can we use DOM-based scripting. Okay, how can we write DOM-based scripting without using the environment and all. So we will still see further. Okay.